The Panthers have now lost 6 straight games and 11 of 13 after a 3-0 start. Let's bring in our buddy Julian Council from On Panthers, who has the joyous job of talking about this team every day of the week for his podcast. Julian, does this game and looking at Sam Darnold make you feel any differently about the value he could bring to this team, either on the roster or off the roster next season?
No. Next question.
Okay, John Miller, guard for the Panthers, who went that route today. I mean, it's 5 yards per pass attempt, but also sacked 7 times. It is kind of tough to evaluate. I mean, they had 2 turnovers, too.
Yeah, in all fairness to Sam, he didn't really have a chance today. Like he hasn't had a chance at points during the season. And the same thing with Cam Newton and PJ Walker when they've gone out there and played behind this offensive line that, which you mentioned, gave up 7 sacks once again after doing that last week. And now they've lost 6 straight games. The Panthers have no passing offense. They have really not much of a rushing attack at this point in time. And to be 17 weeks into the season and 16 games in and to have the same issues week in and week out, it does make it difficult for the Panthers to properly evaluate the quarterback position. But that being said, Sam Darnold has 4 years of tape that shows that he is not an NFL starting quarterback for any franchise. He should not be. He should never been given the opportunity to come to Carolina and not at least have some sort of competition when he came to camp. He should have never been given the keys. In today's performance, while even when he had opportunities, he didn't show anything that made you think that he was any better than he's been so far this season. It still was an unconvincing performance, and I still believe that Sam Darnold is not the answer for any of the 32 franchises in the National Football League, or if one day they want to have a 33rd franchise in Mexico City or London, England, he's just not that guy, nor will he ever be.
Julian, Joe Person of The Athletic, his report this week, pretty robust. Lots of sources from not only outside but inside the building, kind of dug down and showed some fracturing inside the Panthers organization and maybe not everybody fully on board with Matt Rhule's supposed process. Shaq Thompson comes out after the game and says the players haven't quit. He hasn't lost the locker room. I believe it was Ian Rappaport reported before the game that barring anything catastrophic, Matt Rhule is safe for 2022. Is losing the locker room the only catastrophic thing that could happen at this point with 6 straight losses and 11-13?
Well, I thought that would have happened by now if he lost the locker room. And if Shaq Thompson, who's one of the team captains, goes out there and says it is not happened, that's not the case. And why would it be the case in the final week of the season? Like, they're going to be done next Sunday after they play Tampa Bay, regardless of what happens, whether they win or lose. And you would hope that maybe they can be competitive against the Bucs, a team that they've been blown out by 3 times since Matt Rhule came to Charlotte to be the head coach for the Carolina Panthers. So I don't think anything is really going to change the next week. Like, I didn't think anything would change when they got rid of Joe Brady. I didn't think anything would change when they went to Sam Darnold again this week. It's been the same stuff through 17 weeks. And the last 6 weeks especially have been frustrating and difficult for everyone on that sideline and for everyone in that building. And of course, for anyone who watches this team and roots for them and wants to see them succeed, I just don't see what could happen in next week unless just more reports come out that just this is an untenable situation. But I'm also of the belief that David Tepper is aware of pretty much everything that's going in that building, and nothing that was reported by Joe Person, Athletic, had to be any surprise to him and how people feel about how things have gone with Matt Rhule. If he thinks he should return and get a 3rd season, then, well, he's well within his right. Whether he should or not, that's not up to me. Again, it's up to David Tepper. So I don't really see what's going to change over the next 7 days that would lead David Tepper to believe, this is just untenable. Let's get rid of him and try and find another head coach. And I do find it funny, too, just a quick aside, where David Tepper says that he's embarrassed by what's happened over the last 2 years. Like, David Tepper's the one who decided to give Matt Rhule a 7-year, $62 million contract. No one else did that. The media didn't do that. The players didn't do that. That was David Tepper. So if David Tepper's embarrassed by that, I just wonder, what fans would have confidence in David Tepper to make the right decision the next time around when his first opportunity to bring in his guy led to him being embarrassed by it after only 2 years.
Yeah, you pointed out that quote I was going to bring up from that Joe Person article that David Tepper was, in fact, embarrassed. Do you think it's more of a pride thing for David Tepper if the reports are true and he's going to give Rhule the 3rd year, or do you think it's giving him the 3rd year because he popped in year 3 at his 2 college stops?
I think it's part of that. And David Tepper understood that it was going to take time. He preached patience to the fan base when he got rid of Ron Rivera and was looking for a new head coach. Now he should probably practice patience as well, as he was probably the key figure and the reason why Teddy Bridgewater was not the quarterback here this year. And the Carolina Panthers are in this hole where Sam Darnold is the only quarterback under contract, making $18.858 million, which he has not earned and he does not deserve to have in the National Football League, whether he's the backup or the starting quarterback in 2022. So Tepper has put them in this bad situation. And since Tepper bought the team for $2.25 billion liquid, the 4 seasons, they've had 4 losing seasons. Now there's context of the quarterback position, all the other things that have happened with the team and the injuries that they've suffered. But still, since he's been the owner for the Carolina Panthers, the Panthers on-field football product has been atrocious. He talked about getting rid of mediocrity and not wanting to be mediocre and having sustained success. They're not even approaching mediocrity at this point. They're just putrid. They're awful. And they're one of the biggest embarrassments in the National Football League now here, as we are now in January 2nd of 2022. And he, in large part, it falls on him because he's the owner. And ownership is one of the biggest competitive advantages in sports across town. We looked at Michael Jordan and talked about how he was a bad owner in all these years. Well, look what the Hornets are doing. Look at James Borrego, what he's done as a head coach for the Charlotte Hornets. Look what Mitch Kupchak has done, and a former championship-winning GM with the Los Angeles Lakers, what he's been able to build here with the Charlotte Hornets. Are you seeing that here with the Carolina Panthers under the tutelage and the ownership of David Tepper? I'm certainly not. So if anything, yeah, we can look at the quarterback position, the offensive line, the head coach. I look at the owner because this is his organization, the money that he's spending out there, not to be at a competitive disadvantage. And look what he's done. He's put his team at a competitive disadvantage with his decision to hire Matt Rhule. And right now it hasn't worked out. Maybe it'll work out in year 3. We'll see. But, it's not college. So we can go back of the college track record I've certainly brought up, as that's been the year where things have turned around. It's hard to look at this as they're probably going to lose their 7th straight game next week when we have this conversation again. It's hard to have much confidence in their ability to turn things around when he's whiffed on the quarterback position multiple times, has not been able to evaluate the offensive line, which was the position group he worked with in his lone year in the NFL before being brought here to Carolina. And his decision to hire Joe Brady, then fire him, it's just all of it's odd. And I don't have confidence much in Rhule. And I certainly don't have confidence in David Tepper as Carolina Panthers owner after a 4-year sample size of terrible football under his watch.
All right, we'll talk about, who's going to be on the field next year for the Panthers at a later date, obviously. But what about staff changes and maybe even front office structure? I mean, what positions do you think need to be overhauled the most? What would you want in a new offensive coordinator in 2022? And should David Tepper think about taking some of the decision-making away from Matt Rhule and into the hands of his general manager, Scott Fitterer?
Well, all of the decision-making should be within the GM, with Scott Fitterer, the guy who's been in the NFL for 20-plus years. Matt Rhule should not have the last say on who makes the roster. Matt Rhule should absolutely. It should be a collaborative effort. Everyone should be aligned. That's so important. You look at every organization across sports, and you even go to college that have success from the top down. Everyone is on the same page, the owner, the GM, the head coach in the situation in the NFL. And if they're on the same page, I'm happy about that. But Scott Fitterer needs to be making the decisions. Matt Rhule should not have a say at all in who the quarterback's going to be next year in terms of who they're going to get in free agency. He should not have a say at all in who's going to get who's going to be the offensive line. Like he should not have the final say on the final 53-man roster. He has not earned it. We talk about the NFL being a meritocracy, and that's something that was brought up in Joe Person article from The Athletic, how Carolina doesn't seem to be that, because of all the Temple and Baylor players that are on the roster and some of the guys who would not be on other rosters that are here in Carolina just because they've worked with Matt Rhule in the past. And that's not dissimilar from what you see when coaches take over in other situations and the staff that they bring in here. And this is a staff that did not have a ton of NFL experience. Jeff Nixon, at least, is one of those guys who has, and I'll be interested to see if he maintains the job as the OC and play caller moving forward if Matt Rhule stays here as the head coach. I have to imagine they're probably going to have some sort of change amongst who was going to coach the offensive line, since that's been an issue the last 2 seasons, especially the last couple of weeks. It's just been terrible. It's not giving the team a chance at all. But yeah, there needs to be changes that need to be made. And these guys have families, they're people, they're individuals. This is their career. This is their livelihood. Of course, financially, they should be fine. I don't want to sit here and say that somebody should be or should not be fired, but absolutely, we know change is going to come, and changes are necessary. The Carolina Panthers are going to have a bounce back next year in the 2022 season.
Julian, I have good news. We only have to do this one more time, sir.
One more time. Well, it's been a long season. It's been fun at times.
A longer season than any other season in many ways.
It's unfortunate because Matt Rhule could have had back-to-back 5-11 seasons. Now he gets a chance to go 5-12. Congratulations.
All right, Julian, we'll talk to you mercifully just one more time next week. Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year, Nick, and hang in there, folks. Like you said, one more week.